Welcome to First and Goal, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Get ready for the latest and hottest topics in the SML. Let's get started. Here's your host, Mad Bomber.
All right, everybody, welcome back to First and Goal. This episode, we've got QP meets Doink and Dan. What's going on, guys?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Always happy to be on First and Goal.
All right, well, let's start with QP for this one. And I didn't even realize that that Doink was going to be on this one. Had the questions. These are about 2-week-old questions, so it just worked out. But first question, QP, we'll start with you. We saw Biz and Doink, both of them kind of get rid of old, not even old, they're younger defensive players in Roquan Smith and Payne. And the reason was they didn't want to sign him to long-term deals. After seeing guys kind of give crappy deals to mediocre guys, are we seeing maybe the pendulum swing too far the other way with guys afraid to commit to studs?
Yes. I think, first of all, look at me. I just got rid of Isaiah Simmons, who everybody, considers the greatest, linebacker probably to use her if you could have a choice. But I think that we saw people didn't want to kind of pull the trigger early on a lot of long-term deals, and they kind of waited around and they saw people. I mean, so far we've only gone through one off season, but the free agents doesn't have a lot of good defenders in there, and you're seeing guys settle for now 78 overalls, normal dev guys to 4-year, 5-year, $35 million deals, $32 million deals, and it doesn't make sense. I saw a few linebackers. Cole Holcomb got a pretty good deal in the free agency, and you lose out on opportunities. Giving up big players. So I would say early on the defenders, you got to hold on to them for a long time because I'm always of the belief that you need better players. I'd rather field better players regardless of their age or their contract situations, over trying to just rely on young guys and hoping you get breakout games or, good enough to dev.
Yeah, absolutely. Meats, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about this, and I can't. I think there has always been guys that have made their decisions one way or the other. You've always got guys every single cycle shipping away stars, shipping away young developmental pieces for picks in the draft or for younger guys or whatever. I don't really think it's going in any one direction. I think it's holding steady, and that's just the way team building is. When you got 32 guys in a league, I mean, like I said, some guys, you don't want your Isaiah Simmons. You'd rather have the picks. You'd rather have a chance to fill out other positions on your team, especially when you have a capable user like QP. You can user somebody lesser and get a good value in return for him. So no, I don't think it's like a momentum shift anything. I think that's just how guys team build sometimes.
Okay. Doink, what do you think? You were one of the guys mentioned here.
Yeah, I think both what Q and Meat said was pretty on the nose. I mean, player value is always going to be a little subjective. I think, do I wish I got a little bit more for Payne? Absolutely. And at the same time, though, Coop signed him to, the big deal, the market value deal. He's getting, 15 mil in year one of this deal. That's going to go up from there. And yeah, he's a physical beast, but he's still only star dev. He's good, but he's 85 block shed, 80 power move. That's not, Kenny Clark with inside stuff and whatnot. So to me, it was a financial decision. I wish I got more for him in the trade, but I don't regret making that move necessarily. On the Biz side of things, Biz is all over the place. He made a great deal going out and getting Ridley for a song, basically, and then he went and just handed Q Roquan for a guy who's already on the trade block again in Hollywood Brown. Yeah. But ultimately, I think a lot of the stars we've seen moving have been from, rebuilding teams, like Mike shipping out Kelsey, Mike shipping out, some of those pieces, some of those studs that are getting moved to the contenders, Prime going out and buying Cam Jordan. Those moves have made sense, I think, for both teams, and that's more so of a team situation thing. As long as you're getting good value that fits your team timeline, I see no issue with people shipping out stars for good prices.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think though Kelsey and Allen and Cam Jordan, those are a little different too because they're not Daron Payne sitting at 25, 26 years old. Roquan Smith, same thing. Guys that are going to be there for the cycle. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, so what I think most of people aren't quite realizing is there are certain attributes, physical traits that are needed at each position. So whether you're looking at a user linebacker, you're looking at a D tackle, you're looking somewhere. And it's not whether or what their number is, it's what their number is compared to the rest of the league. So when you look at someone like Roquan Smith, you look at someone like Isaiah Simmons, they have some of the traits that very few people have in the league. So that makes their value that much higher. That makes them worth spending the money on a contract where somewhere else, like a 95 speed receiver, you don't need to spend money on him because you can go get another one. But there are so few of these guys. And that's my biggest problem with most team building is guys aren't looking at where does that guy fit according to the rest of the league. Doink mentioned 85 block shed for defensive tackle. You know what? I don't look at the numbers, but I bet you that's probably top 10. That's a really high number for our defensive tackle. Yeah, he doesn't have inside stuff, but he's star dev, and we're all just kind of hoping on the lottery that we hit on development. So I think you need to look at the key numbers for each position. Why did Q send Isaiah Simmons? Well, he had Roquan Smith, or he has him. That's 2 users. He doesn't need 2 users, so he's got the flexibility to move one of them. I like that move. Those are the kind of thought processes that have to go through. And then when you find your guy, then you got to say, look, I'm going to spend the money, but somewhere else I'm gonna take a loss. A running back, I don't need to spend money on a running back. They're everywhere. I don't need to get money on an offensive guard because I can get one. So you got to make those decisions. And I think guys really aren't understanding how to look at a person and their value right now.
All right, let's start with you Meats on this one. Topic 2. And actually, I just realized we only have NFC guys on here, so this is another good topic. Anybody going to challenge Dan and QP in the NFC with you and Clink kind of losing your superstar quarterbacks? That may have been the last chance. What do you think?
Short answer is no. Long answer is yes, but not anytime soon. I think Dan and QP are kind of, they've got it locked down for at least the next season or 2 minimum. It's going to depend on some rookie quarterbacks. If maybe if Paulie gets a hit on Fields and he turns out, gets a good dev trait and all that, I don't have high hopes, but maybe Jalen Hurts can develop. Maybe Clink can develop a quarterback that might not be on the roster right now. I don't think that, those 4 names that we named, QP, Dan, me, and Clink, I don't think those are the top 4 players in the NFC. Maybe not this season, maybe not totally. You gotta include guys like Paulie, who might be right there. Realistically, though, the odds of Paulie knocking off one of these 2 guys in the playoffs, or both of them, is slim to none. So at least for the next season or 2, no, nobody's challenging.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we should take a minute to recognize the turnaround, the miraculous turnaround Paulie has had. Clearly, I don't know what it was. As soon as he made that pick, everything just kind of snapped into place. But Doink, what do you
it's
think?
The quarterback.
I also want to say what kind of disrespect that was for Doink being one of the NFC is on this show, and he doesn't even want to mention them.
I was hoping.
I got your back, Doink. I got your back. Don't worry about it.
That was definitely a slap in the face. I was hoping I got called next just for that, so I can mention that because that was definitely disrespectful. Go ahead, Doink. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay, Q. We just had a great game this weekend. I'd like to think I showed I could beat you. I think there's a good handful of talent in the NFC that could absolutely knock off Q or Dan in a game. The hard part's knocking them both off if that's the way it plays out. You have to beat one in the divisional and one in the conference final. That's, I think, a lot harder to do. But I think the talent across the league from Meats, myself, Clink, Gouda, Paulie, the entire NFC South, really, with Dom, Monty, Dump, and Clink as well. I know I already said him, but they've all shown an ability to win big games, to beat people. And we've seen this, Matt, in lots of playoff games have been low-scoring games. I mean, Bomber, you had a 9-0 playoff game. Yep. Like, those are the type of games that anybody can win. And Q's the one with the quarterback right now. He's the one with Kyler Murray. He's the one with, I think, the big target on his back. But anyone else, if Trey Lance sails 2 balls for Dan, then that could spell the difference between a win and a loss. I think that goes for all of us. And as the cycle progresses, I think each team gets built up more, then all those guys have more of a chance because a lot of us are kind of in the same spot with quarterbacks, whether that's Fields or Sam Howell or Jalen Hurts or whoever it is.
All right. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the NFC right now has a lot of depth in it. You look across the board, even at last season in the divisional round, Meats had every opportunity in the world to beat me. Gouda does a better job with some clock management, runs the ball a little bit more. He doesn't give Q as much time. Maybe he beats Q. I think, yeah, Q and I are probably the top. Q, obviously, at the top of everything because he won it. But the gap is not that big, and we've seen it. I've seen it already when I played Bean the other night. I've seen it when I played Q one time this year. Even last year, I remember when Faz and Q played in the Super Bowl. Sometimes defensive lines, they just take over a game. And you got Washington, you got Tampa Bay, you've got the Packers. You got some really great defensive lines. I'm not even worried about quarterbacks because really in the NFC there isn't a superstar quarterback. I mean, Murray's the closest thing we have, but we don't have the Herberts, the Allens, the Mahomes. We don't have these guys. So defensive lines can take over, and there are really good defensive lines in the NFC. So I would expect someone other than Q and myself to make a Super Bowl within the next probably 2 to 3 seasons.
All
Hey,
right.
Malik Willis exists. Just a reminder.
All right, Q. What do you think as the reigning Super Bowl representative from the NFC?
Yeah, I think they all are pretty accurate with what they said. I think Dan, to echo his statement, we don't have the QBs, the sexy offensive firepowers. I mean, we have some running backs, we have some guys that can get it done, but the NFC. We're a gritty team. We're a gritty bunch. We have that front sevens, a lot of front sevens that are fast. They get after it. Obviously, Doink is one of those guys that has one of the best front sevens, best front fours, I should say, with some stellar young linebackers as well. But what it really comes down to is any of these guys here, obviously, in the group right now, and, 6 other guys in the NFC, they can all beat us. They can all beat me and Dan in the regular season, especially. There's something about those playoffs, though. It's buttholes get a little bit tighter. The palms get a little bit sweatier. Some guys just aren't ready for that big moment. And I'm not saying that anybody in this group is or anything like that by any means, but there is something about that when, there's games being commentated and it's the only game on at 9 p.m. We're like some real NFL stuff here. So we have a lot of guys tune in, 30 guys at sometimes, and that affects some people. And I think that is what kind of sets me and Dan right now ahead of maybe some of the other guys in the group right now, because we have a lot of really good players in the NFC that can definitely make a Super Bowl. But if that moment's not too big for them, as silly as it sounds, I think that, me and Dan will stay at the top until then.
All right. Let's see. Doink, we're going to start with you for this one. Topic 3. We were just talking about Prime. He won his Super Bowl, I think, what was it, 40? What did we come up with? 46 was the season. Really, since then, he hasn't really done anything. He went to the Super Bowl season 2 of last cycle and then won, I think it was season 5. Do you think anything has to do with him and Matt and their little bromance that they have going on? Ever since he started sleeping with Matt, it seems that Matt's been the one kind of taking over as the Super Bowl representative, and Prime just had his worst cycle ever.
Oh, Matt's clearly been the one who's benefited the most from that relationship. I mean, even back going to the end of last cycle, Matt was beating Prime, 1 to 2 times a season. Like, he kind of had Prime's number the last few seasons there. Goes on, wins his first Simbardi here. Great moment for Matt. I'm not worried about Prime at all, though. Prime is still does his thing. I'm not worried about him whatsoever. Like, he is the definition of, he's prime time 000. Like, he lives for those playoff games. He wants all the commentary. He wants, 30, 35 people in the streams, and he wants those moments where he can just take the heart out of his opponent and carry them. He will be absolutely fine come playoff time. I'm not worried about him at all. Whether or not he wins the division, I don't even think he really cares other than just to nag at Faz. Come playoff time, he will be right in the thick of things. He will be competing for a Simbardi each and every year, and I expect nothing less from him.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize Doink's spot in the SML was that close to being in jeopardy. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I have no fear whatsoever about my spot. Maybe on Common Colt podcast, I might get booted for this, but
Sounds like
something's broken with Prime. I'm telling you this right now. Something is broken with him. Prime used to be the guy who just floated through this regular season. Then we always talked about, well, that's playoff Prime. That's playoff Prime. Where's playoff Prime gone? He's gone. He's disappeared. something has happened. Something has zapped playoff Prime from his body and now maybe put it into Matt's. I don't know. But he's losing these games where it's not a team advantage. It's not anything other than he's either getting outplayed or he's not being clutch in the right moment. And it's a recurring theme. And so something is off. Something is not right. I think you're right onto something, Bomber. I think it's something to do with Matt. And, I don't know if it's going to come back because his best shot really was last season. His team was really in the right spot to win, and he didn't. And now other teams are going to start catching up. And so I'm worried for Prime this cycle.
All right, Q, what do you think?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys remember, maybe around 2009, 2010, there was this puppet of Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. And me and Prime have had a lot of DMs for about maybe 6 seasons now. Even in the AFC, we had this DMs in this conversation because he never quite could get to the AFC Championship every time I would get there. If the seldom times he did, I got knocked out early. We're seeing the same thing happen again. He didn't hold up his end of the deal. He DM'd me right away. I don't want to release the screenshots, but it was something along the lines of him admitting to being LeBron James in this moment for the puppet situation. Prime did lose some of that stigma. It's why he now harps on his regular season so much more. It's what Dan just said. We used to see Prime 11-5, 10-6, maybe have some down years, blow some games that he shouldn't. And then he gears up towards the end and he picks it up in the playoffs. Now we're seeing not the opposite, but somewhat of the opposite, where he's really hyping up his regular season games. He's really going into all the success that he's doing in the regular time. And then in the playoff time, he kind of gets a little bit more quiet now. He's not as braggadocious, as you so to speak, about it. Yeah, you like that, Doink. But it's just, I don't know what happened to him. It's maybe Matt took a little bit of the Monstars and Space Jam, took a little bit of his powers when they were in bed, took it to his thumbs, and now he's, benefited and stole a few things from him. Matt's always been a good defender. Prime is one of his best things is defense, and I think that you've kind of seen that happen.
All right. Meats, you've been around the longest, so you've seen Prime at his height and now at what's looks like his low. What do you think?
Yeah, I think these guys are onto something. Playoff Prime is just not the same playoff Prime. That said, the SML is so much better now than it was when Prime was winning 5 straight Super Bowls in Madden 18. You put this Prime, Madden 23 Prime, into Madden 18, he's going to win 5 straight Super Bowls again. Because he's still a similar player. He's just one step past his Prime, pardon the pun. Listen, Prime's won 1 Super Bowl out of the last 10 seasons. That has never happened in the SML. You've never been able to find a stretch prior to season 40 where 5 seasons he didn't win 1 Super Bowl. We've seen that. We're about to see it again this season. 1 Super Bowl in the last 10 seasons. If he doesn't win it this year, it'll be 1 out of the last 11. That's not the Prime that the SML has known. And I think it goes beyond gameplay. Dating back to last season, you mean to tell me that the best quarterback that Prime can get his hands on is Baker Mayfield? Like, come on. You trade 2 first-round picks for Quez Watkins, and then, 3 guys in the draft are faster than him, and 3 guys in undrafted free agency are faster than him? It's top to bottom. I don't know if it's hard still in it, but he's missed a step.
Beats is dropping facts, baby. He's just spitting fire out right now. Keep going, Beats.
All right. So topic
no
4.
Eminem facts here.
So since we've hit on that enough, topic 4. Let's share the love here. Dan, we'll start with you. Who's the worst trade partner you've tried to deal with?
Yeah, Bomber, I want to make sure. Are we naming names here? Is that the goal?
Well, I don't want you to say player A because that wouldn't.
Gotcha. I didn't know if we were going categorically, like different guys. We're just dropping names. All right.
Yeah, I thought the who was self-explanatory, but that's okay. First
names I'm dropping right now: QB Stud and Doink. Okay, they're very difficult because they overvalue their players. All right. Biz, very difficult because he takes 45 days to make a decision on something. But ultimately, the worst of the worst right now is Monty. Monty, I DM'd him a month before offseason, said I'm interested in a player. Right after offseason, I said, hey, Monty, what do you want for the player? He said, I already gave him to somebody else. I said, Monty, how'd you not even let me offer a bid? What was the bid? Can I do better? He told me the bid. I said, Monty, I'll do better. Give me some time. Before I even know it, the end of the day, the trade already went through. Didn't even give me the time to make a better deal. He could have improved the deal, gotten a first-round pick instead of a second-round pick. He didn't even wait for it. So, Monty, you're the worst trader.
All right, QP, who do you got?
Yeah, I actually didn't think Doink was that bad. I mean, we didn't even talk about trades this year, but historically, we just throw him into all the things that we shouldn't because he gets a bad rap. So, QB stud is one of them. I act on behalf as a sports agent for my brother, and I heard some of the deals. I tried to give him a couple ideas to give him, and QB stud is really hard to negotiate.
Hold on, you work on his behalf, and you told him to accept that Rodney Hudson deal?
No, I definitely. He actually tried to guilt trip me into it, and I told him don't give it to me, and he said no, let me do it. So that was actually a whole different thing.
He saw how good you worked him over, and he decided to hire you after.
But I will say Biz is actually, after the Roquan Smith deal, I think that he got really difficult to work with. Another one, I heard that he was really hard to deal with. And myself, he offered me a third for Isaiah Simmons, and then he actually repeated it. Like, I didn't think he was joking, but then he actually asked again if his offer was a top 5 offer. So I didn't know if it was real. So I would say Biz is up there because after he got roasted for the Roquan deal, then he literally, like, tail tuck, did not want to make a deal unless he was definitely bending somebody over. And the last one I will say, and this is a sleeper that nobody mentioned, I'm surprised because maybe they didn't even inquire, is Field General. This man does not release a player on his team. He just releases them to the free agency. I asked for Patrick Queen. Nothing. Nope. I'm holding on to him. What's his name?
Marcus Williams? I just went after
you could help me out. The OLB, the outside linebacker, not Mafe.
Maybe Hauser Ojabo.
No,
Alway?
whatever his name is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The one I had last year. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did not want to deal. Like, there's no dealing with him. I heard that a few guys in my Thanos group also inquired. No dealing. There was literally no budging, not even here in and out. And, you see a couple guys going to the free agency. So Field is definitely the number one.
We'll get him later, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So long to him.
Yep. All right, Meats, how about you?
I didn't have a good answer for this before this offseason. And I'll tell you about a deal that just went down, almost went down on draft night. I tried to trade for Caden Stearns from QB Stud. Caden Stearns is 74 overall strong safety. I wanted him because I didn't have a strong safety. He said 2 second-round picks, and you can have him. And I thought about it, and he should have taken it. But you know what? He came back to me later and said, I like something else better. Well, he ended up drafting a safety that was better than him in the second round, and I got 2 safeties that are better than Caden Stearns in the draft, in the second round. QB overvalues his players, and he thinks they're worth more than they are. Caden Stearns is a good young player, sure. He's not worth 2 second-round picks. He's not worth a second and a fourth or a second and a third. Maybe he's worth a second-round pick. That's a very recent example. If we're looking at it just in terms of, who gives you the worst offers, it's Figs. And I'll tell you why. A couple years ago, he offered, he wanted Andy Isabella, which, he loves his speed, a young D-end and a second-round pick for, like, Robert Quinn, like a 34-year-old. And I'm just like, oh, my God, that's the worst offer I've ever heard. And he said, okay, fine. How about a second? And I said, okay, cool. It's just like Figs and QB Stud. Listen, I'll trade with Figs as much as he wants because he gives in too easily. But QB Stud, I don't know if I'm going to be taking up negotiations with him again anytime soon.
All right, Doink. Final answer.
Yeah, Fig made a nice move going out and flipping Harris for Deion Jones this year. He's made a couple actually solid trades. The Mac Jones trade was good too. But that's not what this question is. This question's asking for who's the worst trader in the SML. Yeah. And I've had pretty productive negotiations. I haven't had really any bad trade negotiations this cycle. Last cycle, honestly, the toughest one was Prime. Prime was trying to just absolutely finesse me. Prime was, the guy in your fantasy league who offers you 3 scrubs for your first round pick. Which, speaking of which, now that we're dumping on QB Stud, I have this trade right here from QB's optimal team in SML Fantasy, right? This trade was so bad, I didn't even hit respond to it. He offered me Kareem Hunt, Tua Tagovailoa, and his kicker, Tyler Bass, for Saquon. So yeah, right here we're gonna hit reject. QB Stud is the unanimous worst trader in the SML. I will say my actual trade negotiations with him went fairly well, but he offered me that in fantasy, and I lost all respect. So
Well, it's no surprise he's on here 4 times because he did think that Montez Sweat trade was a good deal and couldn't believe that we declined one even worse than that. But with this, it looks like Dan, you were 0-3 against QB or QP, or you're 0-4 against QP, aren't you? 0-4. Unfortunately, you're 0-5. QP with 156 is our winner. QP, 30 seconds, all yours.
You bummer.
Oh, I won?
Yeah.
Hey, I thought you were saying Dan won. Okay, hey, well.
I was setting him
here
up
we
to
go.
let him down.
So, Doink got me early this year. Respect to him. That line got after it. Playoff time, I hope we see Doink there. I definitely hope I see Dan. I hope he gets the 5th seed. I want to see him in the NFC Championship. I want to go to the Super Bowl through Dan one more time. Meets, let Gutta get the NFC North. That's it.
Sorry, I can't do that.
All right. Well, that's been this week's episode of First and Goal. Thanks for being on, guys, and look forward to next week.
Thanks for listening to First and Goal. Be sure to check out Mad Bomber TV on Twitch and YouTube for the latest from the SML. And we'll see you next time on First and Goal.